To help through the ceremony. I feel blessed to be here with everybody. Clifton Pitts was a close friend of mine. So, if you would all rise, I'd like to invite the Reverend Archie Perrin of this lovely Macedonia Baptist Church, our host for this event today. He will lead us in today's invocation.
You bow your heads as we begin our service. A moment of prayer. Eternal Father, loving God, creator of everything and the author of grace everlasting, we invite your presence upon our gathering today. May we find during our time together a common good, a greater purpose, and many productive means to bring glory to you. As we gather together today, again to celebrate the life and legacy of our beloved Clifton Pitts, let us remember that all good and perfect things come from thee and thee alone. May we be united in heart and in mind as we lift our prayers in the realm which we cannot see. We seek your guidance. We seek your glory. Give us health, give us strength, give us long life. We trust, Father, that your word is true when you said everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. Therefore, let us hold high our heads today and do your will. As your son Jesus prayed, Father, not my will, but thy will be done. Let us then be our aim and our hope. We give thanks for the calling upon our lives, and may we each welcome any task that you do give us, doing it with strength and gladness. You're good, Lord, and we thank you for remembering this nation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Perrin. So we will like to have one of our favorite state representatives, Mr. Austin Davis, whose legislation allowed this to be moved through the House in Harrisburg and brought us here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roxanne. First, I want to thank Pastor Perrin for hosting us today, and it feels only right that we're at a church that I start with Scripture, and I was thinking about Cliff the other day, and this Scripture came to mind. For you were called to freedom, only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. Galatians 5:13. You know, Cliff Pitts meant so much to our community and to so many people here in the Mon Valley. When he passed away, it didn't seem right that we weren't able to send him off in the way that we would have liked to have the service that we would have liked to. So I thought of a way that we could honor Cliff to make sure that his memory is never forgotten. The one thing, if anybody knew Cliff, you know he was Duquesne through and through. And I couldn't think of a better way than to honor this strip of 837 after him that runs throughout this entire community for future generations to know the work that he did for the people that lived in this valley. Cliff was a trailblazer in many ways. He fought for social and political power for black people before it was popular. Before there were all these fancy organizations and fancy terms, Cliff was on the ground doing the work. And I can say undoubtedly that his sacrifices and the sacrifices and hard work of his generation paid for the successes of mine. And make no question, there's no question about it. There would not be an Austin Davis if it wasn't for a Cliff Pitts. He served and dedicated his life to the people in this Mon Valley. And I can remember, if you knew Cliff, he always said what he meant and meant what he said. And when I worked in the county executive's office, Cliff always called me. Whether it was about helping somebody for a job, whether it was about bringing resources back to the Mon Valley. And when I got elected state representative, he held me to the same account that he held every elected official to make sure that I'm honoring the people that I was sent there to represent, and I'm delivering on their behalf. And I'll never forget the lessons that he taught me along the way, and this highway stands as a testament that no one will ever forget the legacy of Cliff Pitts throughout this Mon Valley. And I just want to say to the Pitts family, thank you. Thank you for sharing him with us for so long. As an elected official, as a community leader, Many people who often sacrifice, it's not just the person who's doing the work, it's their family members. It's the dinners that they miss, the birthday parties, because they're out serving other people. And I appreciate and thank you for the sacrifice that you gave us by letting us get to know and work with Cliff Pitts. So with that, I just want to thank each and every one of you for attending today. I'm honored and thrilled to sponsor this legislation to rename this highway, and I look forward to seeing it stay here for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin Davis. We will have a few speakers today. Next speaker up. I can't flip my page, sorry. Would be our State Senator Jay Costa, who I'm sure most of you know. He's worked really hard throughout the state of Pennsylvania for us, especially Western Pennsylvania. He is the current senator for Allegheny County and the Senate Democratic leader since 2011. Please welcome Senator Jay Costa.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roxanne, and thank all of you for allowing me the opportunity to come by today and say a few words about our collector, our friend, Cliff Pitts. And to the Pitts family and all the friends, my condolences to all of you. Over my course of time in the Senate, I had the chance to get to know Cliff very well, and he would oftentimes reach out, as he mentioned, as Austin mentioned, reach out and want to sit down and talk about the fact how he felt as a Democrat, collectively as Democrats up here. He felt how many communities in the Mon Valley were taken for granted, and he wanted to remind folks that how important it was for us to hear the voices of everyone in our community, and particularly people of color. And I will tell you, he was adamant about making that point, to the point where he would bang on our doors and say, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to coordinate meetings and the like. It evolved into the Mon Valley program that he had, and I will tell you, probably 4 or 5 times a year we had the opportunity to get together. Usually it was around food, and I look around the room and a lot of folks here who joined us, whether it be at Eaton Park, at Roman Bistro in Forest Hills, in the parking lot of one restaurant when we had COVID last year. The goal was to be able to bring people together and hear from the leaders of the community about what was taking place, what was going on, and what he felt needed for us, we needed to hear. And we responded. And it was a variety of things. It was resources into the community. It was resources for the workers on election day. And this is kind of the time of year, Cliff, to pick up the phone and say, you know what, we're getting close to the election. I haven't heard from so-and-so, and I haven't heard back from so-and-so. They want our votes, but they haven't participated in helping our people who we want to work with. And he was mindful of that all through that process. But the area I think that a lot of folks don't necessarily know of, Austin touched upon it. Clifton was always looking out for somebody else, always looking out for other individuals. And I will tell you, it was about growing jobs and for people and young people. And I will tell you, over the course of my tenure, my 20 plus years in the legislature, we have the opportunity to do a lot of summer programs. And I would tell you, every year, Clifton would present to us 3 or 4 different folks to work on the Pennsylvania Turnpike and to work in executive positions in the Turnpike up in Harrisburg, whether we working in my office, working as interns over the course of the summer. He looked for those opportunities for people to give young people an opportunity to grow and to be successful as they move forward. And I was very, very proud to be able to work with him along those lines. So thank you all very much for being here today. I think Cliff would be so overwhelmed by the number of people who are here this morning to celebrate his life. And my hat's off to my colleague, Representative Davis, for being able to take the time and the effort to be able to get this section of the highway named after Cliff. And let me tell you, it's not an easy thing to do. Let me tell you that. The ability to get something to a legislature as a Democrat, and Cliff knew this, and he talked to us about it. I know Ruth Luther and Roxanne talk with us, and everyone else when we have our meetings talk about it, how difficult it is to advance legislation and the like. So Austin, thank you for being able to do this. Thank you for recognizing a really important person who meant so much to this Mon Valley, so much to the communities that he represented collectively with all the other folks who are part of his board. You all made a difference. You made a difference in terms of what was being done, and there's no question in my mind that Cliff Pitts made a difference in the lives of the people in the Mon Valley, particularly the young folks. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. Thank you. I'm sorry, Roxanne, I went on a little long.
Thank you, Senator Costa. Next, we are joined by State Senator Jim Brewster, who's represented the Mon Valley in the state Senate since 2010. He would like to share his remarks with us as well.
Thank you, Roxanne, and thank you to the Pitts family and all the friends here today for giving me the honor to speak. Ironically, we're not too far away from an event that Senator Costa is working on now, this thing called redistricting. And I want to bring up a piece of history that probably none of you know. It was 2012, Senator Costa, when they were going to eliminate the 45th district. That meant all of us. It was going to move to the Poconos. And is Lucky Price here? Hi, Lucky. Well, the whole process, I went to Senator Costa. I said, looks like we're going to lose my seat. And he was the only one that voted not to lose the seat, Senator Costa. So the process began. And I said to Jay, I said, well, what can we do? He said, well, you can appeal to the Supreme Court, but we've never won, right? So my friend Clifton Pitts calls me with, out of nowhere, right? All the people I know, all my family, Clifton calls. What are we going to do? I said, well, you can go to Harrisburg and speak on our behalf, buddy. He and Lucky Price and others went to Harrisburg. And I won't make the story any longer other than to say that we made history. No matter what you may have read, thanks to Clifton and others, we're still here, you're still here, and thanks to Senator Costa for standing up for us to support people like Clifton and Luther and Roxanne. In addition to that, I go back a little further than Austin. How old are you, Austin? 31. Well, I've known Clifton probably 30 years, and he's helped me in every single election. When I was mayor of McKeesport, is there anybody here that's never been to the Elks in McKeesport for one of Clifton's meetings? They are historical. Every time I got lonely, I'd hope he'd have a meeting, because when he introduced me, he made me feel better about me than I feel about me. So, and I mean that. He just wouldn't let, that's probably the media I just dropped. But he just, so I want to thank Austin and others that are involved for this memorial, because every time I drive by here, I'm going to think about his mission. Diversity, helping people that need help, regardless of color or age, he would call out. But more importantly, when I drive by and see his name on this road, you know, think about my personal relationship and how many times he helped me personally so that I could. So thank you to the Pitts family, to all his friends, and it's an honor to be here. And I do have a proclamation for the family from the state of Senate of Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Well, before we go to the next speaker, and I don't think you'll mind this, a couple people have said thank you to Roxanne and Luther, and I should have done that at the beginning. I thank my husband, Luther Sewell, who was so close to Cliff, it's unbelievable. They were trailblazers together throughout the state of Pennsylvania, and I'm glad that he's here with us celebrating today. Thank you, Luther. So having said that, I would like to introduce the County Executive, Rich Fitzgerald, a friend of the Mon Valley and Cliffs and ours, and we'd like to hear his remarks as well.
Thank you, Roxanne, and it is good to see Luther here as well, and folks like Bill Zachary and Lucky and so many. And, you know, Senator Costa and Senator Brewster, you know, said it very well. You know, Cliff would bring us all together. And whether it was at the Elks, at these great events he would have many times, a couple times a year, or meetings we would have at the Eaton Park or wherever, or in my office, he would bring a whole bunch of folks. He was always worried and always working on behalf of the people of the Mon Valley. He wanted to know what the summer jobs program was, the Learn and Earn program that we have together. And as Austin said, as Representative Davis said, when Representative Davis worked in my office, he was always working with Clifton to support and help the Mon Valley. You know, people often say, well, the Mon Valley, sometimes people forget the Mon Valley. Well, if they did, Clifton was there to make sure they weren't going to forget the Mon Valley, because he was reminding the folks that how important and how vital the Mon Valley is, not just Allegheny County and southwestern Pennsylvania, but to this nation, and how important it is. And Clifton did that. He did it on a daily basis, working on behalf of getting candidates elected at the local and municipal level, and at the county and state and federal level. He was always working for the betterment of the Mon Valley. I also want to congratulate Representative Davis and thank him for doing this, because, you know, as we come past this highway and do on a regular basis, we'll probably have a smile on our face thinking of Clifton, thinking of what he did. And as the representative also said, you know, there's so many tragedies that have occurred during this pandemic, and obviously one of them, you know, obviously being Clifton, but also that we couldn't celebrate his life, that we couldn't have the proper celebration of the life of Clifton Pitts and all the things that he has done. So the fact that we're here today, and I know we've got another event coming up in October to celebrate, again, the legacy of Clifton. But again, Representative Davis, thank you, because we'll now have this memory to remember the great work that Clifton did for years and years to come. Congratulations and thank you.
The program has former county exec Honorado. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to attend today. So I want to ask, is Mayor Nesby here? I don't think. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will then move to Mr. Theron Vaughn Pitts. Nephew, yes. Yes, I didn't know that until we started working together, and we started working on the program for the 16th of October.
Yes, ma'am.
So, as most people know, Mr. Vaughn, welcome, and he has some remarks for us from the family.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you all, senators. Austin, really appreciate you guys. This legacy, my Uncle Cliff, you guys know him as a politician. You know, we know him as a family man. There's three things I want to say, and whenever I think of Uncle Cliff, I think back to my grandparents and, you know, the transition that they made from the Hill District, being forced out by eminent domain when a civic arena was being, you know, built. My family came here in 1942, 43, and to think my grandfather was a politician as well. So my Uncle Cliff being a sixth child and everything, you know, I mean, he was not the most talkative in our family, but he sure was the loudest. You know, and with that being said, you know, his voice, and I can hear him now, you know, and you look at it for what it's worth. I mean, I had a big, long written speech and everything, and I talked to my aunts and everything all week long about how to prepare and what to say about Uncle Cliff. And he's sitting there saying to me this morning, he says, you know, as I'm coming over, crossing the bridge, nephew, I'm not big on speeches anyway. Do what you need to do and tell them about the mission. So his mission was his people. And his people was not just the city of Duquesne, but the city of Pittsburgh, the state of Pennsylvania. Uncle Cliff cared about everybody. I asked him one time, I says, Uncle, I says, you know, why? I says, why? He says, nephew, what do you mean why? He says, if we don't fight, who's going to fight? I said, Uncle, I said, man, sometimes if people don't believe in what you stand for, why do you continue to stand? He says, nephew, I'm going to continue to stand until I leave here. He says, people will believe and people will buy in. He says, when those people don't buy in, they'll buy out. So the many people that have left basically, you know, or came across his path, they knew him. And they knew what he stood for. They knew what the standard was. And the standard was for Uncle Cliff was accountability. He held everybody accountable. Whether it was a politician, his family, he called, to check on us. He says, if you were on medicines, Sylvie, did you take your medicine this morning? Called all of his sisters, he checked in. Patty, what are you doing? And for that, I am forever indebted. Lost my father, Hayward Shorty Pitts, at the age of 17. And whenever I thought I couldn't go on, he gave me every reason to go on. Through my sports career, through my coaching career, he was there. And at my adulthood, when I entered adulthood, for some crazy reason, I admired him so much until I thought I'd jump in the political arena as well. So at that point, he mentored me and gave me so much advice. It wasn't just political advice, but it was life advice. How to raise my kids, how to be a man, how to be a gentleman in the community, how to represent the last name Pitts. Now again, I'll say that because I have a lot of my cousins in here, out here, represent the last name Pitts. When you look at this last name, from this point on, our history is entrenched, not only in the city, but in the state, because Austin Davis made it possible. So when you look at it for what it's worth, and you look it up over those hills back there in Crockendale Projects, and when my family came here, there could be many people that have been, or that are represented at this hour. You have infamous names that have come through the city of Duquesne. Mr. Bud Dudley, Mr. Coleman, Bud Coleman, the whole 9 yards. I mean, there's so many people that could have their name entrenched on highways. But this time, at this day and age, 2021, September 24th, Clifton P. Pitts is being honored with his name on a state 837 highway. So when I travel with Uncle and we go through, the communities, whether it was with Mr. Lucky Price, whether it was Mr. Sewell and his wife, whomever it was, he carried himself accordingly. He carried himself, with dignity, class. He had a certain prowess about himself. If Uncle stood at 5'2", he had a voice that made it seem like he was 6'10". He was such a powerful man. No stature built, but when you seen him, you seen a bulldog. He was such a powerful, influential man. And I look over across and I say, to the one person that shared him, my Aunt Barb. My Aunt Barb, his wife, shared him with the community and allowed him to be the man he was. Like they say, beside every great man, there's a great woman. So no matter how you look at it, there's that great woman right there, my Aunt Barbara Pitts. So I'd like to give her a round of applause. So lastly, before I close there, I again like to thank all of our dignitaries that are sitting, beside me. I really appreciate what you guys do, what you have done, and the relationships and the love that you have for my uncle. I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. God bless you, and it's a great day to be at Pitts.
Vaughn, his nephew, next speaker is Lena Bryant Henderson, his goddaughter. So these are truly personal remarks that are coming as part of this wonderful family. So please welcome Miss Lena Bryant Henderson.
Good morning. Uh, if anybody knows me, they know that I love Cliff and Cliff loved me. I want to thank Vendetta and Marvin, my brother, for sharing their dad with me. My dad and Cliff Pitts were tight from the time they were small to growing up. And my dad made sure that there was another man other than him that I can call on. I could call on Cliff Pitts for any and everything. I called on him. I'm the attorney, but he had the juice. I would call him and say, Cliff, I have to appear in front of whomever, and he would sit in the back of the courtroom like the Godfather. You hear me? And I got treated a little bit differently when they found out Cliff Pitts was my godfather. I loved him. And when I say that these remarks are coming from me, my heart personally, Austin, I want to thank you for everything. But Austin was calling me during this preparation and asking me, political facts and, when did he graduate? I don't know. I'm like, Austin, I know you think I know everything, but I just knew him as a man that I could trust, and a man that would give his heart and his soul for anything. He was a political powerhouse. That's no doubt. But in these last 2 years, he stood out in my mind and in my heart like a giant. My father battled a sickness, cancer, and their bond was something that no one could ever imagine. One black man to another black man. Cliff fed my dad. He spoon-fed my dad. And no matter what he did politically, that will always stand up in my mind and in my heart. People, when people are in a spotlight, they'll do anything because they know that other people are looking at them. But the true measure of a man's character is what he does when nobody's around and when God is looking. And I can stand here today and say that when nobody was around, and when that door was closed, and when my heart was broken, Cliff was right there. And when my dad needed him the most, he was right there. And, people who are in the political realm and all that, they say, oh, you could call me, Cliff meant it. He meant that. My son is here. He called Costa's office and said, hey, I want my nephew to have a job. And nobody else will do that. There's no Cliff replacement. I want to thank all of the people here. I know he loved his family. He loved his sisters as my dad loved his sisters. They were real men and patriarchs of their family. Now, this road, it's nice and it's paved, but believe me, the road that Cliff had to go down was rocky. He didn't get the love and all the respect and all that when he was living and was struggling and fighting for people. I want to say, and I hope he hears me, I stand on his shoulders, and I will never, ever forget his fight. I will never forget his people, and I'll never forget his love. And let's celebrate Clifton Pitts, the president of the Mon Valley People's Action Committee. Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Beautiful, Lena.
there's really not a whole lot left to be said after that. And so, moving along with our program, we would like to ask Representative Davis and Senator Brewster and members of the Pitts family,
Miss Barb,
Miss Barb
his sisters, and
And
his
his
daughter,
sisters.
if Vendetta's around.
and Vendetta,
Yeah.
please to come and join us for the presentation of the proclamations.
So you might as well read yours, and
Okay.
since you got your glasses on.
Okay. So I'm just going to read this proclamation and present it to you all. And it just says, whereas the House of Representatives of Pennsylvania is always pleased to acknowledge those individuals who through their dedicated civic endeavors and professional excellence contributed to the well-being of their communities and ultimately to all the people of this Commonwealth. And whereas Clifton P. Pitts is being recognized posthumously with the designation of the portion of Pennsylvania Route 837 between Center Street in the city of Duquesne and Hoffman Boulevard in the borough of West Mifflin in his honor. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania pays tribute to the late Clifton P. Pitts upon his well-deserved recognition, proudly notes his exemplary record of service and contributions in keeping with the highest ideals of this Commonwealth, and directs that a copy of this citation, sponsored by the Honorable Austin A. Davis on September 3rd, 2021, be transmitted to the family of Clifton P. Pitts, and it's signed by myself and the Speaker of the House.
Well, there's no sense reading mine. It's pretty similar, except mine is signed by me. And it's gone through the state Senate, and it's quite an honor, as Austin said, with our county executive here and Senator Costa, for these to go through the Senate and the House as they have done is very rare, and it's very special. And that's something we thought, Clifton Pitts, I always call him Pitsy. And I said, you'd appreciate this. He's up there looking down right now. So Brewster's all right. I know he's saying that. This is for the family, and congratulations on what Austin was able to do today. We'll miss him dearly. It's hard to say condolences and sympathy and congratulations in the same sentence, right?
Yeah.
But that's what he deserves. So, who's going to handle this?
Mr. Barr.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, can we get a picture with the group real quick before we leave, before you guys disperse? Oh, yes. Thanks, sir. First, I just want to thank everybody, thank my staff for helping to put this together. Please give them a round of applause. They did most of the work. And to Miss Roxanne, and I just want to invite you all into the church after for a light lunch that we have for everybody. So we'll see you in the church. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great. No problem.
So, just, I didn't want to say this, but thanks.
Family.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing.
We're going to set off balloons for our family.
Oh,
Even though he looks older than me.
He does.
But I just really want to say we appreciate your talking.
No, I'm so glad. It was the least that I did. He did so
Okay.
much for me, seriously.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's all you want to do is with
So, babe.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming.